I'm going on an adventure! Hey, Matt here from Adventures with Matt. Starting a new series that I'm calling On the Workbench. I have a bunch of little projects that I do all the time. I've never really believed in New Year's resolutions, but I do believe in teaching myself how to do something new every year. And a few years ago, I picked up leatherworking, and it was kind of out of a need and an interest that I had. And it's really turned into something that I enjoy doing. I like giving away stuff as gifts, but it's also super helpful for me as I'm just in need of something, and instead of having to go buy it, I can make it. So today's project, I have this little camp hatchet axe. It's made by Gerber. It's been a really great piece of kit for me. I use it, I carry it with me whenever I'm in the woods, really, for a couple of reasons. It's great just as a camp hatchet to process firewood, whatever you need to do. It also works really good. The way that it's built is you can hold it like this, and you can use it as a skinning blade or a chopper, if you're even cutting up peppers and onions for food, whatever. You can use it like that. It's just it's a really versatile tool. And it came with a cover on it that snapped onto it and had a belt clip and stuff. I lost it in the woods. So today's project, we're going to make a new cover for this because you can't just leave it exposed. And I'm going to sharpen it too because it's all chipped up, and yeah. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to try something new with the cameras, and we'll just see how it works. All right, so how I tend to start this is I take a sheet of paper and whatever I'm working with, in this case the hatchet, and I position it on the paper kind of close to an edge, and take out a pencil that is comically oversized and has teeth marks in it because children. And what I like to do is I just want to draw a basic outline of the blade profile and kind of where I want this cover to go. So once I've got that, then I want to loosely mark in. I want about a half inch, a second line, about a half inch on the outside of it. To help with stitching, which we're going to get to eventually. And to give us, a rough idea of where it's going to fit, how it's going to fit. So you can kind of see there's going to be a good bit of excess material on it. I hope you can see that anyway. But from there, then I'm going to take that and we can cut it out real quick. A bunch of ways to do that. Keep your tools handy so they're there when you need them. Not an exact science here. Well, I'm sure there is, but I don't follow it. So now you've got your basic outline, and the way it's going to work is you're going to have two halves, and then another piece that's basically going to be that extra outline that you drew, and that's going to be so that the whatever the edge of the blade won't cut through. Whenever you go to put it into the cover, the sheath, whatever it is you're making. So we'll then reach up here and grab our leather, and I just, you can use scraps, whatever you got. I just tend to order veg tan leather from Amazon. You can get it in a roll like this. And it gives you, you'll have a bunch of scraps from all your projects. So whatever you need to do. And you're going to lay this out, and basically what you want to think is you're going to need one side, and then you want to flip this over and cut your other side. And after you do that, then you want to cut this piece out, this middle piece, cut this out, and then cut this outlined part out. So you're going to have 3 pieces at that point. You'll know it's 3 because you'll look at it and count. So once you get to that point, you're going to take those pieces and you can test fit it. And then you'll want to use, I just use this Leathercraft cement to glue it in. And I put the pieces all on, in this case I'll put the pieces all on the axe head with the glue, and then put something fairly heavy on it to weigh it down till the glue dries. So we'll get all that done. Alright, so we're back with the miracle of editing. So we have this piece. So we have 2 sides, and then you can see there's a 3rd piece that runs right there, and it'll run all the way down. This is super rough and unfinished, but this, and it's all glued together, so it's pretty tight. You can see now it fits on the hatchet like so, and that's kind of where we're at right now. The next step for me is I want to take this and I want to, it might be a little bit difficult to see, but like right here, I want the leather, this cover, to kind of follow the swoop of the axe head. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to break out my Dremel with a sanding bit on it, and I'm just going to take this sharp edge, this corner down right here, and start working on the end shape of what I want it to look like. So I've broke out the giant pencil again, and I'm just kind of position this. I want to make sure it's in the right place before I start chopping away at this. But we know that it's going to roughly follow that track. That should look pretty nice when it's done. While I have the sander out, I'm going to probably round off this edge right here, round off this, and then just kind of sand everything so it's a nice smooth surface. Alright, we're back at it. You can see I made the cut on the leather to attempt to match up with the line for the cutout here. I think it looks pretty good. I could probably clean it up a little bit with the Dremel, so that's what I'm going to do right now. While I'm doing it, I'm going to try and I might clean up some of these edges a little bit more too, and we'll just keep going. Okay, now that we've really made a mess of things, working with leather, there's a lot of carryovers if you've ever done any woodworking, so including the dust that you create when you sand things. I'm hoping you can kind of see, like, now this edge is fairly smooth and it almost looks like it's one piece of leather. I'm going to use one of my other tools. Like, part of my goal in showing you how to do this is you don't really need special tools. Like, there's nothing crazy that I've used. This, I bought a basic leather working kit off of Amazon. I think it was like 10 bucks, and it came with a whole bunch of stuff. This is a neat little tool. Can you see that edge? Yeah, there you go. And for this, you're just going to take it, and after you sand, you're left with some edges that aren't as clean as they could be. And so you just take this and just run it right along the top. You see it, that kind of curly part that it's pulling off it. We're going to go ahead and do that all the way around. Alright, so we're at the point in this game where I'm going to make some decisions about how we're going to keep this all together. And I think I'm going to put a fastener down at this end and maybe two at this end if I can fit them. This is my hardware and fastener bin. And it's got rivets and snaps and all kinds of stuff in there. So I'm going to go with, these are called Chicago screws, I think. And it's just what it sounds like. You've got a screw side, male and female end, and it just pushes through the leather, and you just tighten it up. And these are just about perfect, maybe even a little too big. But I think it'll work. I think it'll work for what we're trying to do. If not, I've got these rivets here, these brass rivets, and that might look pretty good with this. But I think these screws will, I don't know, might be too big. Well, we'll figure this out as we go. Might be rivets, might be screws. Everybody will be surprised. Either way, I've got to make a couple of holes where I'm going to put the fasteners. So there, and there. And that'll hold it all together real tight. And then we'll make the marks for our stitch lines. I like to hand stitch stuff when I can. And so we're just going to do some more of that. So yeah, let me get that all marked up and maybe some holes put in there, and I'll show you. So the other thing that we're going to need to make is a strap to hold this on the hatchet. And so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of leather that will be tight going all the way around there, so that it'll just hold it on there, and I won't lose this one like I did the other one that came with the hatchet. So yeah, we'll cut a piece of leather out and we'll start punching holes and marking everything where it needs to be. Yeah, I've got my hardware all laid out. I think we're good to go. I started off with a metal straight edge ruler and just kind of laid it on my cutting board here just to make sure that everything's kind of squared off. And I think that just the width of the ruler will probably be enough. It might even be overkill on this. So maybe we'll shorten that up a little bit. These green cutting boards are really nice to have as you're doing this kind of work. Just kind of helps you line everything up, and you know you're working with a nice straight edge. But again, no fancy tools. This is just a utility knife that I have. It probably needs a new blade. Metal ruler. Like, this is all pretty cheap stuff that you can get up and going and do this on your own. Alright, so we've got our strap cut, and we just got to kind of figure out the length. I'd even thought about maybe going through the finger groove hole, whatever you want to call it, on there. But I think overall this will be a much better application for it. Should hold it on there pretty tight. Just got to figure out where it needs to be and what's going to be the best work here. So once you kind of get an idea of where this is going to fit, I'm just going to, what do I got here that I can do this with? I'm just going to use this little screwdriver that I have, and I'm going to make a mark where the end of it will be, and then from there we also need to make a mark. Maybe I'll get this cut first. Let's do that. Okay, I know I said no special tools. I guess technically this is a special tool. It's a hole puncher, and it makes life a lot easier for doing things like this. But before I had the hole puncher, I used a drill and bits to make holes in thick leather. On the strap here, like, I've got my hardware all sorted out, so I know what size to use on here. And I've marked out where I need to punch the holes, and so I just center it, give it a squeeze, and look at that. Look how nice that is. Super nice and clean. Do this other side. Okay. So now that we've got our holes punched on the strap, we need to lay this out again on the hatchet. Make sure it's tight. And that little screwdriver that I had, I'm just going to stick that right through there and use that to make an impression so I know where to punch holes on the cover. Okay, see how that worked? Yeah, it worked. Okay, so now I've got a mark there and a mark right there. And this hole puncher works really well. You can use it to slide right there. Get it centered over the mark I made. No problem. And no problem. Alright, so that works really well for like one layer of leather. It doesn't work as well like trying to do everything up here because it kind of moves like on an angle, like, you know, fulcrum lever, all that stuff that we learned in elementary school. So I think what I'm going to use is a drill and bit sized to the hardware, just to make those other 3 holes, and then we'll start marking out the stitch lines, and we're really moving. Alright, so now the holes are all drilled, everything is situated. I think I'm going to run a line of stitches right down here to really hold this thing together. Like, could I get by with just putting in rivets right there? Probably. But, you know, if you're not doing the most, what are you doing? So I'm going to make some marks just to kind of guide my stitching, and then I'll kind of show you how some different ways that you can mark this. But nothing. Okay, so I just kind of gouged a line where I want the stitches to follow, and you've got a bunch of options here. So you want to poke a hole all the way through the leather, and you want to keep a consistent pattern. You can eyeball it. You can use an ink pen and just draw dots, and then use your drill to drill out the holes. You can get an awl. I don't know. AWL. Say it however you want. I'm not going to bother you. And you can use that to drive your stitches. You can get a cheap set of punches. That's what these are. Or pricking irons, I think is the official term. And you can use those. I'm a big fan of this to start, like to lay out your pattern, just so that everything is even and consistent. And you don't have to go crazy with this. Like, just give it a tap. And now you've got your marks, and all I do is just overlap like one of the holes to start it. You just do that all the way down the line. So now that all the stitching holes are, you know, marked proactively, I'm going to use my drill and a very small bit, and I'm just going to try and do my best to go straight down through this. You know, if you have a drill press, that's an even better way to do it, because then you can just kind of clamp this thing down and use your drill press, and it'll just go straight up and down. When you're using a hand drill, sometimes it can like get off just a little bit, and then you end up with stitching that, while on one side may look absolutely perfect, you'll flip it over and it looks like you did it in the dark. So we'll just we'll see how this turns out. So I've got the holes all drilled for the stitching, and you can see it followed really good on this line on the top. Remember how I said the hand drill will sometimes go a little wonky? So if you flip it over, it's still pretty straight, but not as good as the front, but we'll just pretend that that doesn't even exist. I'm not perfect, so my stitching doesn't have to be either. But overall, this looks pretty good. And so let's talk about finishes. I've been kind of playing around with the different stains and stuff. So the handle on this is black with this like olive drab, green, brown color. I don't have anything that really matches that, and I thought about going, normally I use this dark brown leather dye here. That's why I have the giant bottle for it, because that's what I use on most of my stuff. And the finish for that, I mean, it looks really nice, comes out really well. But for this one, I kind of wanted to play with something a little bit different. So I've got a bottle of black, and I have a bottle of saddle tan here, and gloves, because if not, my fingers will be black and like orange, like bronzer. So I'm gonna leave the gloves on, and I'm just using cotton balls, and I'm kind of dabbing, you know, the color on this little scrap of leather that I have, and it's pretty interesting to see, like after a couple coats of each of those, kind of the color that it's getting, which isn't that, but we're getting somewhere. So I think that's what I'm going to kind of do. Just kind of play it loose and fast as an experiment and see what this ends up looking like. Let's see. Alright, I'm going to let this dry, but it looks pretty cool. It's kind of marbleized. Definitely different than anything I've ever made before. I really dig it. So I'm going to do this all the way around, and we'll let this dry, and then we'll start putting it all together. So the dyeing is all done. It's still a little damp yet, but I kind of want to keep moving and get this all situated and at least put together so I can wrap this up. But you can see I did the strap as well. We'll get the snaps and rivets figured out here. That's a whole other thing. And I'll do my best to show you how this works, but I'm not great at it. I am going to leave the gloves on for a little bit though, because I don't want my hands to get all stained. I'm a little extra that way. Yeah, so overall, things look pretty good. I like how this finish looks with this. Should be a good one. In getting these rivets put together, you've got two ends. You've got the rivet body that goes through the leather, and then you have the cap. And the easiest way that I've found to do this is to get them started, like figure out which is your front side, which is your back side, get the rivets started in there, and then you can see on this one I've already got the head like started and situated, but it needs to be like really pulled together yet. So once you can get it most of the way through, you can use whatever you got laying around. You can just put it flat on the ground, like a hard surface, a concrete floor if you're working in the basement like me, and just give these a couple shots with a hammer and it'll start to pull itself together. That is the easiest way. I'm going to get these three put in, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like. So most of the assembly is done. It needs to be stitched. It needs to like some finish work done on it. But the assembly's done. I put the strap, I used a rivet on the back side, and then I had a copper snap set. So I put that on there. And go watch one of the other like million YouTube videos about how to do rivets and snaps, because I'm terrible at it. I totally messed this one up, but it's okay. Again, it works, and that's what's important. Now that we got the rough assembly together, let's see how it fits on the hatchet. Nice and snug, which is what I wanted. Get the snap on it. Okay. We're looking pretty good. Just gotta, like I said, just gotta do the stitching, do the finish work, seal it up with some wax, and we're ready to go. I'm gonna let this dye dry, and then I'll work on the other stuff and show you when it's done. Alright, well, we changed cameras because the GoPro battery just decided to die. It just does that. So, this is where we left off. We got all the assembly done, we got the staining done, and we got to start stitching. So like the rivets that we have in here that we put in will hold this together. But after I made the holes for the stitching, look at it, started to pull apart. This is not the end of the world. This is why we're going to stitch this. So I've got some needles. I got some dark brown waxed synthetic sinew, and we're going to get to going. I don't know that it's like an actual rule of thumb, but one of the things that annoys me more than anything when doing leather work is when I'm doing the stitching and I run out of thread. So I always do like 3 times as much that I need. So like there's that length. I might even go a little more just to be safe. I'm scared like that. So we'll cut it. Got 2 needles because I'm going to do what's called a saddle stitch. Let me get these tied on and I'll show you what I do. So I've got 2 needles here, one on each end of the string. And all we're going to do is start at one end here and run this through. And it's going to be a little tight. Sometimes you gotta kind of help it work through the hole. The other thing you can do, let's see, where's my awl? Instead of like really fighting those, if the hole wasn't perfect that you drilled, you can use your awl to kind of open those up a little bit. It's a good way to start things. You can kind of get an angle going there. Not doing a lot of work, just kind of getting that first layer opened up a little bit. I'm going to do this and I'll do the other side. Okay, I ran the awl through all the holes on this, both sides. And now, yeah, it's a little easier. It's not super easy. It shouldn't be. It needs to be tight. So, pull it through and kind of make the lengths equal. And what you're going to do is, let me get to it. So run it through the next one. It is tough. And then you're going to run the other side right through the same hole that you just came the other way. and pull it tight and see how it pulls that leather together, just like I said it would. So I'm just going to do this for like the next half hour or so and get this thing all stitched up, and when I turn this back on, this should all be stitched up, and I'll show you where we go from there. Alright, it's stitched. Came out pretty good. Let's talk about finishing this thing and what that's going to look like. So we still got like unfinished edges. I don't know if you can really tell. I have a bit of a process that I go through, and it involves beeswax. So I've got a chunk of beeswax here, and what I like to do is I'll cover this whole edge, you know, all the edges with this beeswax. I'll get it up here, and then I've got a burnishing tip to put on my Dremel tool, and we'll polish this up really good. So after I've rubbed the wax on all the edges, you can see this is a much different end on the Dremel. This is just a burnishing tool. It's wood, and so when you flip it on, it spins at a pretty good RPM, and it helps kind of polish and seal everything up and give it a pretty decent like finish to it. So I'm gonna do that real quick. So the edge is looking way better. I'm going to keep using this beeswax, and I'm going to pay special attention to the stitching. So my goal in using the wax is to help kind of seal everything up. And so I just kind of rub it all over this. Really want to get it in all that stitching. So there's one side, that's pretty good. And it's okay if you make a mess, because this cleans up super easy. Okay. Got a good amount of beeswax kind of rubbed all over this thing. Maybe a little more right there. Okay, so the next thing I do, I've got this old heat gun. Hairdryer will work just as well. This just works really quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to warm it up, and hopefully the camera will show the wax kind of melting and settling in. Oh, there it goes. Okay, hopefully, yeah, I guess it did. It showed on the camera. Let's do the other side. All right, now it's nice and sealed. Set this down without setting anything on fire. And the very last thing that I like to do is just kind of use a microfiber rag, and I'm just going to kind of give it a bit of a buff. Just a little bit. It's more to kind of move that wax around a little more. You can see it shines up a little bit. I'm not going for patent leather. Just a nice clean finish. Okay, well, there we have it, folks. Put together from scratch, a really, really nice axe cover. It has a retention strap, and that hopefully I won't lose. If you have stayed this long, thank you. There we go. It's done. So it's done. Put it all together, and I'm pretty happy with the finished product. I mean, sometimes stuff I make turns out like it looks nice, but I'm really all about function over form when it comes to this stuff. I just want it to work and be durable and last. So I think I've accomplished those goals with this. And hopefully I've inspired you to try doing something new. I didn't know how to do any of this. I just had a need, and there are so many great like tutorials and videos out there on YouTube. You can learn how to do this stuff way better than anything that I just showed you. This is just how I do it. I'm sure somebody's going to watch this that is way more knowledgeable about leathercraft and like, wow, like, he didn't do that. I didn't. And you know what? I don't care. Because what I did works for me, and hopefully what you do works for you. This has been the first episode of On the Workbench. Got some stuff to play with and some setup stuff, but hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for sticking around.